9 times out of 10, when we are talking about the best sci-fi films ever, we usually go up there towards the stars and we start talking about space. I mean, Star Wars, Star Trek, Alien. We could sit here all day and do this all day long, but that would be really boring. So today, let's take this idea and flip it on its head and take space and throw it in the bin. And we can't do that, it's not realistic. What we can do is we can find 10 movies that aren't set up there at all, but still kick all the ass. My name is Simon Miller, thank you again for joining me for Science Fiction on a Friday, aka Sci-Fi, I'm never gonna let that pun die, and these are the 10 best science fiction films ever not set in space. Number 10, Her. A lot of people think that Her is the greatest ever sci-fi romance movie. Now, admittedly, there are not a lot of options in that category, but it's still nice to be number one. You're likely gonna get a medal. The basic idea is that Joaquin Phoenix's Theodore feels so disconnected from the real world, he starts to build up somewhat of a relationship and a rapport with his voice-activated operating system. So imagine you woke up one day and you started to think to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm in love with Alexa. That's basically what this is. It's all set in the near future that's not too dissimilar from our own, and having Scarlett Johansson as that voice is inspired casting, as is bringing in Amy Adams, who was somewhat of a human love interest. The whole thing is just very bittersweet, and while it sounds like this is just some crazy over-the-top premise, it's not, because underneath the surface, this is all about how the human race is too reliant on technology and we don't know where we're going as a species. I tell you, you will not be disappointed. Number 9, Los Chronos. They call it Time Crimes, which is the English translation of Nacho Vigalondo Spanish movie, because I'm just an oaf and I clearly butcher it every time. Either way, this low-budget Spanish movie is about to take you on one hell of a ride. Starting with our main man Hector being lured to a nearby forest because of nudity. Yep, that's what happens. He is soon being told to be on the lookout for a bandaged man, and then being told, look, you need to get in this nearby contraption for your own safety. Who would do that? He does, however, and can you believe it, it just so happens this thing is a time machine, and it zaps Hector back 1 hour in the past, and that's when everything starts to unravel. Like all films of this ilk, it will absolutely fry your brain, but that's why it's so entertaining, and that's why it's so fun, because as soon as you are done, you'll think about starting it again to try and, push all the pieces together. Even then, you don't actually get a proper answer, but that just makes it even more intriguing and means you can go on the internet and start arguing about what you think actually happened. So, it's proper time travel stuff, but it gets 2 thumbs up from me. Number 8, Coherence. Picture the scene. You're at a dinner party, you're having a great time, you're eating some of the canapes, and you say hello to your mum from across the room when all of a sudden a meteorite or an asteroid, whatever you want to call it, goes flying past planet Earth and takes out all the power. All seems normal at first until a series of brain-twisting and moral-shattering consequences start to happen. And I can't tell you anymore because that would ruin the fun. Coherence is proper sci-fi though, and it's a high concept that is meant to challenge your brain, and how they filmed all of this on such a low budget I will never understand. It's also all about being metaphysical, so when you do sit down to watch it, you have to be locked into this 100%, even the slightest lapse of concentration, and you're gonna find yourself lost. Just to sum all of this up, many people call it a time travel movie, even though there's no time traveling in it. Enjoy. Number 7, Donnie Darko. Setting your movie in the late 80s suburbia is not really a direction that many sci-fi films head in, but when it comes to Donnie Darko, it just took all of these rules, ripped them up, and threw them out of the window. To the point, even though this film once again barely had any kind of a budget, it put to shame loads of other movies that were throwing cash as if cash was going to exist forever. Without doubt, Richard Kelly's best movie, it follows Jake Gyllenhaal or Donnie Darko over, 28 days and 6 hours and 42 minutes and 9 seconds, and from minute 1 to minute end, it just gets stranger and stranger and weirder and weirder. From here, it's just another bonkers ride, and while a criticism of it in 2020 is, oh, it's so emo, which doesn't actually count because at the time, emo wasn't emo, it's not like My Chemical Romance were around the place, I think it's this atmosphere that makes it so rewatchable. It's so uncomfortable in a comfortable way. So you're meant to feel a little bit on edge, and what is better than getting to the end of a movie and instantly going on Google and trying to figure all this out. I absolutely love it, which is why I like Donnie Darko. Number 6, Ex Machina. Another gem from writer and director Alex Garland. This is all about following a programmer who was told by his boss, oh look, I invented this AI, would you mind going and spend some time with it? The whole idea is to see if he's going to forget that he's actually talking to an android and start treating it like a human, and the story begins. From there's just a huge question mark about what it means to be human, and even though this doesn't have a big budget either, the performances and the casting are so good here, you will be questioning it from the moment you hit the play button. It is so deep and it is so well put together. It's only 90 minutes too, which feels like a breeze these days, and it will stay with you long after the end credits are rolled, and it may even have you do a little bit of introspective thinking, and it did all of this away from space. Number 5, Abrí los ojos, or Open Your Eyes in English. I know, I'm an idiot. I hate me too. If you just want the easy version, this is the movie that Tom Cruise based Vanilla Sky on. It's really bizarre and hard to explain because it follows a man trying to explain his crazy life to his prison therapist as he wears a mask. And that's kind of normal, I suppose. But then mid-explanation, this just falls off the rails even more, and you're supposed to keep up with it. And if you're wondering why people say this is better than the Hollywood remake, because it is. Before long, you're straddling what is real and what isn't real, and what the coherence of memory is, and what you can believe and what you can't believe, and you are absolutely going to have to lay down after you go through this. And also, if you've only seen Vanilla Sky and you haven't seen this version, make sure you change that right now. You won't regret it. Before long, you're straddling what's real and what's not real, and what humanity is all about, and the coherence of memory, and it will absolutely exhaust you. And if you want a little bit of trivia, Penelope Cruz is in both versions because Tom Cruise was so impressed with her performance, he got her back involved. So this experience is all about trying to figure out what is going on before the movie tells you, and even then, it doesn't really tell you. Number 4, Inception. You either love it or you hate it, right? And I'm very much in the former camp because I'm biased towards Christopher Nolan. If you want some brain-frazzling Hollywood action, Inception is the film for you. Following Leonardo DiCaprio's Dom Cobb, who does indeed break into people's dreams to try and steal information, he gets offered one last crazy big job that if he does succeed in, he'll be able to get the one thing he desires more than anything, is freedom. So I guess in terms of the story, it's pretty standard stuff, but you get about 678 sub-narratives going on here, and an all-star cast talking like you should just be able to keep up with this. But you don't, and at the same time, you're not meant to, which makes every single re-watching of this as if you are viewing it for the first time. The ending is great, but also so are all the spectacular set pieces, and it reminds you that Christopher Nolan once again is the king of the big blockbuster that somehow also feels like an indie film. Number 3, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Is this one of the best films ever? If your name is Simon Miller, the answer is yes. And do not forget that back in 1990, nobody thought that the Terminator was going to come back as the good guy and basically go on some kind of buddy-buddy cop journey with John Connor. Nobody called that, and yet it's flipping brilliant. It's mad because Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800 has been sent back in time by John Connor to protect his younger self so that he doesn't die, in order that in the future he can then stop Skynet. It's doubly necessary as the new T-1000 is on their case and just wants to kill everything, and it has great action and great one-liners, and it just never gets old. T2 also has some of the best visual effects you'll ever see, and I mean that from a 2020 standpoint, and I'm pretty sure you could watch this 20 times a day and never get bored. Is it Arnie's finest hour? I would say yes. Number 2, Blade Runner. You know the deal already. Set in a dystopian Los Angeles, Ridley Scott's movie follows Harrison Ford's Rick Deckard, who is tasked with going out there and stopping all these robots, known here as replicants. And while it does have a spacey feel, they never actually go to the stars, and the really interesting part about watching it now is that it's set in 2019. I think you just got to be fair and call a spade a spade. They didn't get it right. The neon visuals and badass look into the future are absolutely excellent though, to the point if you've never seen it and now you do watch it, you will be overwhelmed about how much this pretty inspired every single sci-fi movie that came after it. It also has no interest in answering any of your questions and leaves you with that big one at the end where you will shout out loud, "What does it mean to be human?" And really, none of us have a clue. All you really need to know is that although it was released in 1982, so many other movies have tried to better this and they've absolutely failed. It's an all-time classic, and even though it's got a sequel, the original Blade Runner is where it's at. Number 1, The Matrix. The first Matrix is so good, and it's so easy to forget that now because the sequels divided the audience right down the middle. And I am one of those people. I thought the original was mind-blowing, and I have no idea what was going on in 2 and 3. Following Keanu Reeves' Neo, who is snapped out of his fake reality into the enlightened Matrix, where he also learns that he's the one, my word, what a day he has, this is just so finely balanced between Hollywood action and sci-fi concepts. I mean, who doesn't remember seeing Neo perform that limbo move for the first time as bullets just fly past him and not go, holy shit, what kind of world have I just walked into? It was a trailblazer at the time with a bunch of other movies trying to jump on the bandwagon, and it was this success that pushed the Wachowskis a little bit too far because they just became way too ambitious and didn't really have the budget to back it up. And they still had a massive budget. However, none of this takes away from the magic of the original, and in 1999, nobody could get enough of it, and even here 20 years later, it's still pretty flipping good. Know of any other awesome sci-fi movies that are not set in space? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles, follow What Culture on Twitter at What Culture, and watch more videos here on What Culture. My name is Simon for What Culture. Thank you for watching Sci-Fi. If you've never checked in before, go back and watch the others videos. It's Sci-Fi on a Friday, and you know I love it.